Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Normal World. I'm Dave Landau.
I am Quarterback Garrett, and joined with us today,
Angela, what's up?
What's up?
Oh my God, a black screen.
Gosh.
It's not Black History Month.
Well, it's Women's Abuse Month.
Oh.
Yeah, we learned that last week.
Oh, yeah. Condolences.
I mean, Domestic Violence Awareness.
Yeah. Also called what
Women's
I said.
Abuse Month.
Yes.
I think they want to celebrate it by making people aware of it.
Oh, okay.
But boy, if
It could be men too. That happens too.
Yeah.
You guys are always trying to take things from women.
Well, I'm just saying that you can be there should be a men's psychological abuse by women month.
That's the rest of the 11 months.
That's true. That's how we celebrate.
Sorry, ladies. I'm just kidding.
Dave,
No, you're not.
where can people see you?
Oh, this weekend they can see me in North Carolina, in Asheville, or not Asheville. I flubbed that because I'm worried about. It's not far from there though.
Yeah.
I'll be in Raleigh, Durham, at the Improv with the American Misfits, and then next week Skyline Comedy Cafe
Thank you.
in Appleton, Wisconsin. What about you?
Nega Garrett's my new channel. Go check out the videos I got on there right now. 2 of them. Thank you for checking them out if you have already and subscribing. But also, Angela, you have something as well.
It's called Angela Does Horror, all one word, on YouTube. Just put out a video on the Substance. Gonna have another one out probably later this week. So yeah.
Great video.
Boom.
Thank you.
Great video. I watched the whole thing.
I got to watch the movie first.
Thank you. Yeah, watch it first.
No, I told her I didn't. I watched part of it up to the green goo. I told her.
Okay.
But I don't want to know more because if I don't want to.
Yeah, you don't want to. You want to go in blind.
Yeah. I lied last time. We're aware.
Immediately called out.
Thank you so much for subscribing to this channel, though, after we do the roundabout on our channels. We appreciate you watching these shows and tongue punching that like button and doing all the stuff. It helps. It really does. Thank you.
That's right. But right now, I think we should get to it. We have a very, very special guest. He was on one of my favorite shows, Wilfred, that was on FX here, but he was also in Australia, which he created. He's a musician, actor, and right now he is actually a candidate for the Legalize Cannabis Party. Please welcome to the show, Jason Gann.
Ow! Ow!
Huge fans here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Garrett. Thanks, Angela. So great to finally see you, Dave, meet you in a different screen. I've seen you on screens before. I got a new laptop yesterday.
Yes.
And so I'm seeing that sort of clearer. But it's just good to see you. Like you're talking to me. I'm a big fan. You know that. But
I know it means a lot to me. I had no idea, and then I've been a big fan of yours ever since I saw Wilfred on FX. So I appreciate it.
You're actually the only comedian that I follow that hasn't dropped off. You know, like I haven't. Sort of after a while, just like
yeah,
break. So I haven't.
It's because he's lovable. That's my theory.
I never get. Every now and then, I go back and find your Michael Myers killing the gay joke.
Oh,
the gay joke. It's one of my favorites.
Thank you very much. Well, yeah, the dark sensibility I think we share in comedy, if not a lot of things. Because really, I mean, you created Wilfred, which was based on, a guy who kills himself, it doesn't work out, and then he hallucinates a friend that's a dog.
Yeah. Look, it just sort of started years ago in Australia. I happened to be sleeping on a couch on a friend's sofa and smoking bongs, and he came home from a date. He'd just been cockblocked on by a dog after taking him to a concert, and so I just started improvising, interrogating him in the style of De Niro and Meet the Parents, and then. We just went, this is a short film. We wrote it down straight away. We shot it that weekend. And then from then on, it just grew. We were in festivals. We went to Sundance, festivals around the world. And then I did an Australian pilot and 2 seasons in Australia, and then went to America. But funny enough, I wasn't going to do Wilfred again because I didn't really enjoy it. I had another show in Australia where I played this sportsman, and he was a high-profile sportsman. So I was always in nice clothes, driving Maseratis with women. And then there was this other show where I'm in this dog suit where everyone's like, I got no respect, and wasn't getting along particularly well with the people I was making it with. So my then manager called me up. And he said, look, I know you don't want to play Wilfred again. I said, I'm not getting that fucking dog suit again. And also before that, I'd done 10 years of children's theatre where I've been in and out of animal suits for all this, and it was a soul destroying experience for a while. So that's actually where the
if you're not a furry, that's got to be rough.
That's where the torment of being stuck in this dog suit it came from. That informed my character. So I didn't want to do any more animal suits. But so anyway, he said, I don't want to do Wilfred again. He said, hear me out. I think that this could be your Mork and Mindy. He said, just like the alien, everyone's going to remember the dog. And, even if the show's not a hit, you should, you can walk in, you'd be able to walk in any room in Hollywood. And I said, well, my favorite show as a kid was Mork and Mindy, and that's pretty hard to argue against. So if you can sell it, I'll do it. He sold it. I did it. Season 2, I was writing the writer's room, and I got an email from Elijah saying he was on promoting Happy Feet 2 with Robin Williams, and that Robin was a fan of the show. And he'd offered to be a guest on it, and he was a guest on it, and it was the first acting job he did on television since Mork and Mindy.
Wow.
Really?
That's so cool.
Dude, he'd done Letterman and all those. He'd been on television, but not acting. He hadn't done an acting role on telly since Mork and Mindy.
Brought him back.
And he was a full circle of that being the carrot that was waved for me to do it. And Wilfred has grown into this creation that has inspired so many people, helped so many people. I still get emails every day. Today, someone saying, you helped me through such a difficult time in my life, and so it became a real blessing for me to have this character that isn't me, is from me, but has grown into this other thing that is now sort of a symbol of cannabis use, and also mental health, and just a lot of good feelings. I mentioned before we started this, I do suffer from anxiety quite badly, and often that would be connected to playing Wilfred. And even still, to this day, if I'm about to do an appearance as Wilfred, I will get a wave of anxiety. And I just remind myself that you just got one job to do, and then let's just make people happy, Yeah, and
absolutely.
I see their faces light up when I'm in that suit, and when I see that from them, it just takes it all away, and it becomes a very joyful experience.
It's like it seems like meeting Robin Williams and everything and doing that, but also the point of the show where it led. I mean, Robin Williams committed suicide, and that's something that you're very, aware of, and that you dealt with in the way that you put this out there. And I mean, I have anxiety, depression. I think I don't know. Garrett seems
everybody
happy,
does.
But
to some extent, everybody does in different ways.
Yeah, there's like so many levels to it. And it's like, was like for meeting Robin, what was your take on him in that moment? Did he seem happy to be there? Or did you think that there might have been something off?
Well, look, he'd said that he'd be, he'd be keen to play like a cat or something like that. And we'd already had Rhea Perlman play a cat in a cameo in the season 1.
Yeah.
We'd done a lot of other actors in animal suits in the Australian version, but it was kind of a decision we'd made with the American one that wasn't going to be a key feature in the show. And it wasn't, and we'd already mapped out season 2. We've broken the stories, and when I announced, I came in the writers' room and said Robin Williams wants to be in our show. David Zuckerman, who was our showrunner and the developer, and he developed Family Guy as well. Yeah. He said, well, there's nothing for him. There's no role in. Look, we've broken all the story. I said, I repeat, Robin Williams wants to be in our show. Right. And we found a role for him that was a psychiatrist. I thought it wasn't good enough. I wasn't happy with it. I expected him to say, no, that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to play, maybe a cat or something. But he just graciously took the role. He came on. And I was driving out to Gillette Ranch outside of LA in the morning, and it was dark, and I knew I was driving, and I was just thinking, I'm about to meet Robin Williams. I've met a lot of famous people, and I get it's a little bit starstruck here and there, but nothing like this. And I was like, this is just it was almost like a spiritual experience. And then when I saw him, he was having a coffee, and everyone's got the mist off their breath, and I got a coffee, and I came over there, and I said, it's an honor. And he said, the honor's mine. And I just, it felt like I'd just been sort of punched in the chest. And I said,
Right.
it's a mutual honor then. Like he was talking about me in this way, just was easily the most validating experience as a struggling, suffering artist who myself suffered with depression for many years. And so we hit it off really well. And his makeup artist said that he, in all the years she'd worked with him for 20 years, he'd never had lunch with other actors outside, but on those 2 days he was on set, he had lunch with Elijah and I. We talked about everything. We talked about the craft, we talked about I shared with him this situation that I'd had, this court case thing that I'd had that really caused me a lot of suffering, and he shared something that still to this day is not well known, that I think's been buried on the internet about him. That was very, he's just a lovable guy, and that's what I've heard from everyone. I was developing a show for him when he passed, and it was I could talk at length just about the Robin Williams experience, but we did laugh he did laugh, and I said that my manager had said that I should be able to design my career like Robin, because he said he didn't feel like he was designing it, and he thought many times his career was over. But it's very tragic what happened to him. It is. And strangely, this suicide connection has. My best friend killed himself maybe 15 years ago now in Australia. But before he did, I remember him saying to me, "Wilfred is what the world is going to know you for." And I said, "No, I had no intention of doing it beyond Australia." At the time, he goes, "Yeah, Wilfred's what the world's going to know you for." He was quite prophetic in that sense, and so he was right. And so suicide has been a big thing for me as far as a what I like to, if I lean towards any kind of charity event, any kind of movement, I kind of, it's something that I feel strongly about, that is due to a disconnection that people have, a spiritual disconnection that they have from society, from the world, from a higher power. To use an AA term. I guess that's become part of my creative work that I'm working on now, and it also is a big driving force behind my entry into politics.
Take us through that. So you actor, writer, producer. Then you did all that.
Yeah, and I mean, you get...
Well, I did entrepreneur for a while.
Right.
After in 2019, I was in Hollywood for a few years. I just couldn't find anywhere where I felt like I wanted to settle and live, grow old there. Mm-hmm. And I was always
that's a good call.
It's a family city.
I was always envious of real estate agents and people like that could just relocate anywhere in the world really and take their skills set and start again. And I couldn't do that because you're rising up through the Hollywood ranks. There's nowhere to go higher than LA and Hollywood. And so I saw this opportunity. I posted one day a joke ad called Wilfred's Weed Delivery Service on my social media, and I was like, remember the good old days before there was all those difficult choices, all those different strains, and what your dealer had is what you got? Well, those days are back with Wilfred's Weed Delivery Service. Now, that's right, the guy from the show, that's what he's doing now. And for an extra $100, he'll sit on your sofa and pull a bong with you. And everyone was just like, well, we're driving to California, we've got to smoke Wilfred's weed.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I might have something here. So I went to FX and got the rights to the character, even though I'd created the character, as you know, you sign these things away.
Yeah.
And got the rights to the character in the cannabis and hemp space. And
were they cool about that? Does that seem like that's...
they've been great with me. They're always like, we never want to get in the way of anything you want to do with Wilfred. We got a lot of love for Wilfred, and
that's rare.
Well, I think everyone thought we'd run for 6 seasons, and then there was some weird stuff. They put FXX up, and then they shifted us around, and we got caught between this silly Charlie Sheen anger management show and Russell Brand's show, and no one realized.
Yeah, he had that talk show.
And all this stuff happened, and people thought that we'd been cancelled, and we weren't cancelled, and they shifted us to FXX, and so I feel, and then I had heard from one of the higher ups, via one of the higher ups, that they'd regretted finishing Wilfred, and so I feel like they weren't really happy with how it ended there, and they would have liked to continue. So with that in mind, I think they just were really encouraging. I mean, there's certain things I'm not allowed to do, and I've been, sure to not sort of, can't use any images from the show or reference the show in certain ways. So, but yeah, I did that in 2019, and I've been doing that for 5 years. So for the first time, what I was doing was really becoming an entrepreneur and a businessman, and then it just led to. I was here in Australia last year doing some business stuff for the company, and someone was at Nimbin Mardi Gras, which is this, our Cannabis Central, and he's a politician. He said Wilfred should run for politics. You could change your name and to Wilfred by default, whatever it is, and you could actually run for politics. And I thought, well, Wilfred wouldn't, but Jason might. And because right. There's a lot of things, I have these strong convictions that I feel about and want to do something about. And I thought, well, this could be my entry in. And so that's what happened. I started talking with the Legalize Cannabis party in Australia. There's a federal party and a state party in Queensland, where I'm from. And then I came over here, and I'm a candidate, and I'm doing it, and I'm loving it.
That's fantastic. Like with that, so is it not legal there? Pardon my ignorance. I've heard it's like legal, somewhat.
There is some medicinal market, but there's a lot of like say you're not allowed to grow your own. You're not allowed to. It's all owned by big corporations right now. So those legacy growers, those people that help build the market, they're still they're still criminalized. There's this kind of crazy driving laws here where if you get cannabis in your system, they swab you. You can, it doesn't matter if you had it 5 or 6 days ago. If it's in your system, they're going to lose your license.
It's horrible.
And it's just and there's there's just it's just that like legalized hemp is like consumable hemp is illegal here. So, for example, in America, I sell these CBD smokes, and they're like a great health conscious alternative to tobacco, and hemp is proven to help combat addiction. Mm-hmm. And also, I sell Delta 8 products. Delta 8 is a hemp derived medicine that's been around since the early 70s. And it actually has more medicinal value than standard cannabis. And what it does is it's a lot of people call it weed light because it's kind of like 2/3 the potency of cannabis. And they say it disparagingly, but I actually think that's a great thing because, there's a time for light beer. There's a time to taking it easy. Yeah. When I was living in Florida, I'd have the Delta 8 sent to me. The USPS lady would deliver it to my hand. I'd open up the door, and there's my face looking back at me with some tubs of weed in it. I couldn't believe it. I said, "Is it a dream that my dream would dream?" And here it would be like, you'd never get paranoia. It's like they've done studies on this. It doesn't have paranoia. It doesn't have anxiety. And for a lot of people with anxiety, smoking weed is sometimes the last thing you need. And so the way the government has the system set up over here, you can only access very high potent cannabis, which is, I say it's if they were regulating alcohol, it's like saying you can only drink tequila shots,
Right.
So what I want to try and do is free the hemp and allow people to access hemp-derived CBD, Delta 8 products and stuff like that to try to, reclaim the word self-medication, which, as you know, is
used as addiction. I mean, it's
Well, in the recovery rooms and rehab centers and stuff like that, they use that term a lot. And they always say you were self-medicating. It's true. They were self-medicating. Now we don't want you to do that anymore. We want us to medicate you.
Right. Right. Yeah. You're now being
pharmaceutical drugs, right?
Which sounds self-medication.
We'll get you addicted to that.
Sounds so much better than government medicated.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have the issue there too, where I don't know what you're allowed to say, and I don't know how any country works right now. So, but do you have the ability? Do you have the strain there too of big pharma kind of keeping this down?
Well, it's good, interesting you say that because that is, they're trying to now, they'll do this thing where and I love getting into these studies. And that's one of my pet sort of projects. I read this study a little while ago in an American media, and it said if you smoke cannabis, you are 50% more likely to have suicidal thoughts or actions. I thought, that's alarming. All right, I want to read this. A lot of people in the industry over there will be like, don't listen to that crap. It's all bullshit. But I'm like, oh, let's dive into it. Let's meet this fight. So I read the article, and it takes a long time for me to be able to find the link to the actual study. And eventually I find the study. I dig into the study, and it talks about how, and already I'm thinking, well, I want to know entourage effect of other drugs. I want to know what alcohol was involved. Like, is it just cannabis or is it, a mixture? And sure enough, they were out of however many thousand people they studied, there was not one person who said they had suicidal thoughts or actions because of cannabis alone. That all had alcohol, that all had a cocktail of other drugs. And so even in the actual study, it said the finding is that there is no direct link between cannabis use and suicidal thoughts or actions. So the actual study was the very opposite of what the media article had headlined. But most people don't read that. Most people don't get into that. So that is a direct result of Big Pharma owning the media and they like the stigma. They like it being stigmatized as being, low life kind of. That's not a legitimate medicine because they haven't been able to patent it and own it. So,
I could just be like, anecdotally, anybody that I know that smokes weed does not seem like self-harm. It doesn't seem like like you just said. It doesn't seem like if you're just doing that, you're more prone to self-harm. Don't think so. That doesn't make sense.
I don't think that's true at all. It
doesn't feel right off the jump.
I don't think that marijuana is linked to suicide. And I know that from the amount of times I just smoked marijuana and didn't feel suicidal. Now, when I added booze to that and pills and other stuff, that's how I would want to kill myself. I mean, alcohol, I think, is such... I mean, I would love to see the ties to suicide and alcohol. I know the ties of pharmaceuticals to suicides just in my own family. And, that's my mom and my uncle. My mom committed suicide. My uncle eventually OD'd from methadone, and it was by the way that they were being treated. So it's like I know these connections to the stuff that's supposedly safe. I just don't see a connection at all. I can see a connection to anxiety if you get it, or maybe a bit of paranoia if we're being completely honest, but that does not lead to, that's not a suicidal thought. Usually you're so, if you're that high, at least for me, I would be trapped in that moment of kind of terror because I got whatever batch I had, that it wasn't something that made you want to end your life. It was, you might want to end your high, might be the only goal.
That sounds like a side effect of what you're getting, and you could be getting it from any person on the, drug dealers on the street.
No, it was
you don't know where it's coming from.
It was a guy in a crack house.
Well, yeah, exactly. Where is that coming from? Is it coming from, these producers that across the border, and then what else is cut in with it? Legalizing it, I do think it has like a benefit.
A Colombian's asshole is most likely where I got.
One of the. I'm so sorry to hear that about your mom and your.
Oh no, I relate to you with your friend, man. It's a shitty thing.
It's why I talk about this self-medication. I don't think that I don't think that 19-year-olds should be doing dabs from sunrise to sunset. Then we're not talking about a medicine. Then that's drug abuse, And there's drug abuse of pharmaceuticals. There's all sorts of drug abuse. And there's always going to be a percentage of the community that is going to that have got a lot of psychological, mental health problems that is going to lean towards abuse of some sort of substance. And so if you can isolate that, but I'm talking about with self-medication, things like CBD, things like Delta-8. Now that along with therapy and stuff like that can be really really helpful. But then there's all the things with the cancer, and there's just cannabis is this miraculous plan. And if anything, I was talking to my campaign manager yesterday saying what makes it so difficult for our case is because cannabis does so many things. You can get lost in the haze. There's just so many different things that you can talk about. You kind of get distracted. And but there is still a lot of stigma negative stigma around cannabis use, and that's that's part
that was my
part.
question. I was going to ask you that because we're on a conservative network. It's right leaning, at least in America. I don't know what right leaning is in Australia, but how do you bridge that gap? Because I think a lot of older conservatives see cannabis as just like you're a loser, you're a burnout. If it's older people, like I have grandparents that are in their 80s, severe pain, and I think cannabis would help them. Because they got hooked on the pharmaceuticals, and then they got the pharmaceuticals pulled from them because we had this whole opioid.
We still have
epidemic.
the opioid epidemic.
Right, it's still going on. So they pulled all that, and then he's just in pain. So how do you bridge that gap between people that do believe it's just for losers and people that
I say cannabis doesn't have any political affiliation, and cannabis doesn't have any religious affiliation either. I personally am a big God guy. I've got a very strong faith, and it's a Christian faith, I guess. I mean, Christianity has a lot of baggage comes with that term. Mm-hmm. I love Jesus. I follow the story of what Jesus did, and I think that coordinates with cannabis as well. I don't see anything. I'm yet to find anything that suggests that cannabis is fights against that. Am I still on air with you guys? Oh yeah. I am.
Yes.
Did a close up on me. So I just feel like I tried to walk that middle line because I. Politically, even though I'm entering politics, but it really is cannabis is my lane, and it's like I found myself like say I went to rehab in between the pilot of Wilfred and season 1 being shot, and I was in a very bad way, and I thought I could run away from my problems in Australia, but they followed me. I'm still banned from Chateau Marmont after a sort of a hectic night where I blacked out at Aaron Paul's party.
I didn't mean to laugh that hard. I'm sorry, but being banned from Chateau Marmont, something happened.
I was ready to check out. It wasn't as bad as I thought. For a long time, I didn't want to hear it.
Okay, I've been there, so it's like crazy.
Yeah.
You're like,
so
the place Belushi died. I'm not allowed there anymore. Sorry,
just drop that too. It's like,
yeah.
So I was I then had I went from one rehab place to another as they realized, as they did therapy, they said your problem comes from early childhood trauma, and that was the base of stuff. I went to a place down in Tennessee, and it was there that I had a spiritual awakening, and I remained sober of alcohol, everything for 6.5 years. But after a couple of years, I was shooting Wilfred. I was in the final season of Wilfred, and I said to my therapist, look, I feel like I want to smoke cannabis again, because to me, cannabis, I have a spiritual relationship with cannabis. I feel like at different times in my life, I can be inside myself, but step outside myself and see my life and where I am now in context of this bigger picture. And I find it's very spiritually enriching for me. And so he was encouraging for me to do that. And then I found myself saying often, my relationship with cannabis is spiritual. I thought, well, what do I mean by that? And so I started, and I've been developing and in pre-production for a documentary right now called The Cannabis Code, which I call myself a conspiracy theorist, right? Because it's all about the mysteries, hidden histories, and possible divine nature of the cannabis plant. And so many ancient cultures, religions actually used cannabis as an entheogen to connect with a god or a higher power. And so that seemed to be like, here was this stuff that, it's all accessible, this information, but it was just like, there's definitely for me a connection between cannabis and my spiritual self, and it doesn't appear to conflict with my my faith. So so that's sort of where I'm at with that.
When is that coming out? Because that sounds like it's right up my alley.
I've actually had to put that on hold while we're shooting another documentary called Cannabis Crusaders, which is more about the political run that we're doing, and the history of the
all right, that sounds cool too.
But it's not as internationally palatable. Well, look, it's it's I don't know when it's coming out, but we're shooting soon.
Well, to go back for a second with what you're saying with your spiritual connection with cannabis. Like that's something that I tend to think about. I've been in recovery for a long time, and I struggle with the idea that weed is a problem mainly because it's a plant that you don't need to step on or change or deal with. It's sort of a very natural thing. As mushrooms as well, where somebody has, it's now being used to treat using at least correct amounts, micro dabbing, whatever, microdosing to treat depression. And then the more serious stuff, like the times I've felt suicidal in my life is when I've been given SSRIs. I've mixed it with alcohol. There's kinds of a lot of things out there that I feel has to be changed dramatically. And that doesn't seem to be that way with pot. But then at the same time, there are these growers that make it so insanely strong that do you worry that can cause psychosis or more of an issue when people go too far with it? And I don't know where the line is for a lot of people mentally, but I think that it's far better for you if it's something that relaxes you, because the same as SSRIs are a Band-Aid here, people look at their experience with cannabis or mushrooms or whatever that might be as everybody else's. If it's something that genuinely helps you, I can't understand why we keep having this fight over it, unless it's, other than control, and that's not just being a conspiracy theorist, but it's just taking away something from a company. You have one thing that's medical companies that they give you. They want to make a profit. They want to kind of own you in a way. And the other one represents freedom. And I think a lot, like you said, the boomers that shut the door behind it, where they're like, yeah, we went to Woodstock and we all had unprotected sex in a muddy field, but you guys can't do that because it's bad for you. So it's odd to me. So like when you find that connection, like, do you think there's anything detrimental that it can lead to, or do you think that the more legalization would be better?
Well, here's what I noticed. I've put the brand in different states, and whenever there's a new state that goes legal, there's this kind of boom period where there's a brief window where you can make a lot of money, and then it becomes a saturated market. And I've noticed that, it happened in America. In those old days, it was like, it's about the medicine. It's medicine. And then the moment that it becomes recreational, it's like, fuck you. It's a drug. Where's the party? So, but for me, coming back to Australia from recreational, living in America for 10 and 12 years, and then coming back to Australia, and seeing this medicinal, I'm really embracing the medicinal value of it again. And so that's really where I'm coming from. I think that if you look at a plant that's grown outdoors and you look at an indoor plant, it's just there's two different. Because one's a happy plant and one's toes never touches the soil. So there's something to be said about organic, tested outdoor plants that I respond to. And as far as as I say, like doing dabs, I did an appearance at a place in San Francisco a few years ago. The name escapes me, but it was a speakeasy place, and they had a dab bar next to the dispensary. And there was this little girl outside. I remember I was leaving, and it was heartbreaking. She was just standing out there waiting for her mum. She must have been like 11 years old, just standing there, like trying to catch her mum's eyes, and the mum was in there just doing dabs at the dab bar. I'm like, well, that's not what I thought this was supposed to be, So there is, it can definitely, Frankenstein into this, bit of a monster, the cannabis movement. And, I'm very aware that I'd hate to, of gummies and stuff. The cannabis community proudly says there's never been a recorded death from cannabis, from overdosing from cannabis as opposed to alcohol. But without a doubt, people have died, under the influence of cannabis. So it's always something. Anytime you've got a psychoactive drug, then you're mixing that with a person's own unique mental, calamities, and so there's always potential for disaster.
Did you know that under your clothes you're naked? That's right. But those clothes could also be super sweet Blaze merch. That's right. You can go
Blaze
there.
merch.
Blaze merch. Not our merch.
No.
That we don't have.
None for this show.
And you guys could, just let people know aggressively that you want us to have some merch. And if we had merch, you could find that merch on, where's that, Dave?
ShopBlazeMedia.com.
That's right. You can get 10% off with Blaze TV.
Look at all that stuff that's not ours.
Yeah.
Everything from Blaze Heritage and Blaze Media Collections to Aqua Donkeys, that movie, and our Trump Vance 2024 merch. Of
course.
We have jackets, t-shirts, mugs, flags, and a whole lot more, except Normal World stuff, but a whole lot more.
Yeah.
There's so much you're going to love, unless it's mainly for this show. Blaze 10 is what you can use, and you're going to get 10% off.
10% off.
Look at that. You can get an American Legend shirt. I do like a lot of the one Blaze shirt that looks like a cigarette pack's pretty dope.
Oh yeah, that
That's
one's
my favorite one.
Sweet.
I think if you don't buy that one, you're probably gay.
Yeah.
But if you use Blaze 10, 10% off.
That's right. 10%.
And you go ahead and feel free again to send them messages saying, "I'd sure like a Normal World."
Yeah, good golly, would I like to put some of that Normal World stuff on me? Just like that. No,
Blaze 10.
Blaze 10%.
Power to the people.
Thank you.
We live in a society which is constantly uncomfortable, irritated, and on edge. Everything costs more, but you get less for your money, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what we're not talking about? My underwear. It's not your typical men's boxers. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, well, it's 50% more moisture wicking. And it also is made of something a little bit more strong than cotton. And it's antibacterial and way softer.
My goodness.
Yep, so any moisture I have, it goes, bloop. You know what it's called?
What is that?
Undertac.
Oh, man. I love Undertac. It's so good.
It's honestly the best. It's the best product imaginable. And they make ladies Undertac now, too.
They're so good.
Aren't they the best?
I keep bragging about them to my husband, and he keeps trying to wear them.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you can't. They're mine.
Does
My
he know that
husband
they
tries
make
to wear
men's?
them. What's that?
He knows, but
Oh, I'm in a cuckold relationship. Go on.
Well, you need to make sure that he's also comfortable
He's very comfortable.
because he's wearing Undertac.
I'm uncomfortable, but that's the society we live in.
Yeah.
But when I'm wearing underwear, I am comfortable. Plus, like I said, they have the ladies, but they also have socks. They have hoodies.
true.
It's the most comfortable hoodie I've ever
Shirts.
owned.
Everything.
You got everything. So if you go to undertac.com right now, you get 20% off site-wide. 20% off using normal 20. That's normal 20. Look at those. Look at the man pocket on that.
Treat your package right. Put some Undertac on top.
Nothing sticking to your leg. Not with that. It's exceptional comfort and twice the moisture wicking as any underwear you're going to find on the market. I'm telling you right now.
Probably can't say zero moisture, but
here's the benefit.
Close.
Yeah, but here's the benefit. The money that you make goes to fighting human trafficking.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yep.
That's a good cause.
Yes, it is. It stops human It goes against Diddy.
That's good.
It goes to stopping Diddy if you buy some of this. So all you got to do is go to undertac.com and use the code normal20, and the money you save will stop Diddy.
Thank you, Undertac.
But you know, the cannabis plan is just like, I mean, say, if you think of plants as I think that years ago there was a book called The Secret Life of Plants that suggested that plants were they're actually what's the word?
Sentient
beings. Yeah, thank you. You really saved me there because I don't think I was going to get it.
Well, I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
And they actually have this awareness, and it was dismissed at the time as being pseudoscience. But when I was digging into the research of the cannabis code, I'm like, there's something to this. And I recently saw some article that suggested that now they are saying that they are sentient beings. They can hear our voices. They can see us. A whole bunch of stuff, right? So you've got these plants. We need plants. Plants need us, type thing. And the same way I compare it to like a dog. Bring it back to Wilfred, and how at some point or other, dogs and humans said, "Hey, I'm going to offer you this, and we can help each other survival here. We work together." Well, plants do the same sort of thing, and so plants, when it comes to their what they call intelligence, in relation to humans and human interaction, they usually can fit one. Maybe it comes into either food, shelter, or medicine. Right, and most of the food that we have, it does one thing. It's food. Sometimes you might have like garlic, medicine, but cannabis is truly the only plant that is actually all three things. They're making hempcrete now, bricks, clothes, so it's a shelter. It's medicine, and for multiple things.
Paper.
And when it comes to plant protein, it's the most complete plant protein on the market. So it's this according to that, it's the smartest plant on the planet, and it's playing us.
Yeah, it's a really wild history. That's why I'd love to watch that documentary because like you were saying, there's so many tribes that used it to create agriculture and all that stuff. And then America, we used it a ton here. Like George Washington had tons of hemp fields. So it's a plant that's like ingrained in human history that we all of a sudden have decided is evil and wrong. And we've
I'm a big God guy, as I mentioned, but I'm also an ancient astronaut theorist, and I have been since years before the term.
I got a show for you, dog.
And so one of the things I actually had experience around 1997 with extraterrestrial, I believe subterrestrial beings that was definitely interdimensional beings. They were threatening beings. And it definitely, I had a strong belief in extraterrestrials, but after that, I spent many years trying to find out what these specific beings were. I reached out to a couple of the hosts on Ancient Aliens. I'm always trying to find out what these particular beings were.
Did you talk to Georgia?
No, but I'm happy if you know any of these guys. I'm happy to get back into it.
I met him a few times.
Well, when I was digging into the cannabis code, I discovered that there's a tribe called the Dogon tribe. Easy to find this stuff out. The Dogon tribe from North Africa, and they say that that extraterrestrials came from the Sirius star system and gave us cannabis, among other things, to help evolve our consciousness. Now, as far as to the early hominoids,
I want this documentary.
So
you just want an excuse.
I'm going. You just want to get high.
I want to watch this documentary. I do a show called Forbidden Frontier, and we talk about all this kind of stuff. So this is like this is my stuff.
So this tribe actually, that's what they say was the genesis of humankind. Was the nomos, they're called, these amphibious looking creatures, and I could talk at length about that as well. But for me, is not when it comes, because of my direct contact with these beings. There was no kind of like, oh, could aliens exist? No, to me that's a given. So I'm already taking it seriously. So in that sense, coming from the Indiana Jones in me that's trying to expose the cannabis code, so to find out the answers. I already kind of have my idea of what I want it to be. I'm happy for it to be something else. But here's the thing that gives their theory this credence from my perspective. This is how they keep their history. They, like a kind of a witch doctor, they choose someone from birth who becomes this keeper of all the knowledge and the history of their tribe and humanity. And they are kept isolated from the rest of the tribe their whole life, and they are just they're trained from the previous guy, and they keep him up in a crow's nest. He's up in this high tree, probably about 15 feet up in the air, and no one's allowed to have any contact with him. No one's allowed to have any physical contact with him. They treat him like a king, and he's given everything, but no one's allowed to have any contact with him, because if they do, they kill him. Right? So his job is to preserve the history of their tribe in its purest form, and it cannot be tainted by human interaction with anyone else, like a woman or anything like that. If they do, they kill him. So I figure that when it comes to keeping history, as we know, history belongs to the conquerors, and it gets rewritten and it gets hidden, and we really can't trust anything that's in the library. Really.
Yeah, the good guys always win.
But if it was a case of, this guy is going to die if he doesn't tell you the truth, I'm going to go with that, right? So I'm already well open to it, and it just seems to feel right, expanding consciousness. That's to me what the cannabis plant can do: expand our consciousness.
No, I think you're right, and I mean,
I am locked in, bro.
Yeah, and I was
this for like 2 more hours.
Yeah. I feel that way too, and that's why I ask, a lot of people, like, where you think it could go if we worry about psychosis, if we worry about if we can take it too far. But I don't feel that it's a drug that can be taken by like a large pharmaceutical company for a profit to kind of made into something deranged just for the sake of money. I think that the people who want to use it know that there should be some level of purity to it. And
Well,
I think, I hope,
Well,
at least that's how I felt.
It could be. That's why it could be a fight, And I am a fighter, and that's why I am willing to. I've got a lot of mongrel in me, and so I want to, at the moment, big corporations are owning it in Australia, and that's something that I want to break that system,
Right.
But so yeah, I mean, look, I think it's fascinating. Maybe years ago, before the internet, I remember reading an article that said that scientists had discovered this receptor in our brain, in the human brain, that appeared to serve no other purpose but to receive cannabis as part of that endocannabinoid system.
Yeah.
I say, what came first, cannabis or the endocannabinoid system? Chicken and the egg? We don't know. But it's like it's some divine design. And so it's interesting that this receptor in our brain resides right where the pineal gland is, or pineal gland, however you'd like to pronounce it, which is where the ancients said the soul resides.
Yeah.
Right? So this is the stuff that I want to know about. Unfortunately,
the pine cone.
Still need to work. Yeah, it looks like pine cone.
Yeah.
I still got to work to pay the bills, so I kind of don't get to. I wish I had that kind of luxury of like a lot of celebs do of just doing whatever they want, and hopefully I get to that point soon. But right now, I'm just still grinding.
When you created Willard, not to go back to it, but I mean, you were smoking weed at the time, and that came out of you. Did you feel that was something that really helped inspire you? Like it was easier to write down once you were high?
As a writer, and I've written other things besides Wilfred, I would always, I would generally not write high, but I would always do a high pass, right? So there's always a time where I'm really happy with it. I'm on about the second draft, and it's like, okay, now it's time to do a high pass. I get really high, and then I'll read it, and I'm like, oh my God, and then that happens. So
right, yeah.
It's not good for baseline structure.
But when it came to Wilfred, in the Australian Wilfred, I made a rule that I was high every session. I was from start to finish. I was always high. But then I'd just come out of rehab, as I mentioned, for between the pilot and season 2, episode 2 of Wilfred in America. So I was off the weed as well.
Was it alcohol that you were facing, if you don't mind me asking?
It was alcohol was the easy thing, but it was kind of like whatever was in front of me. And in Australia, being the situation I was in, wherever I'd go, someone would be offering me this or that, and so it was, and it was also a kind of a damaged love sex. It was always connected to women, actually, also as well. You know what I mean? It was kind of like this kind of broken love, sex addiction, women stuff. I say that quietly because my wife's in the next room.
No, I get it. Well, that can also
you worked it out.
It can lead back to childhood trauma as well, and the damage women do. So, Angela knows.
Okay.
I forget where I was heading with that. But
they break people.
Writing the show.
But the other writers were definitely getting high a lot, and it was actually one of the main reasons why I came. I was in season 4, and it was like season 4 was starting, and that was when I had that conversation with my therapist, because I just thought I just don't want to go through the whole American Wilfred and having never been stoned while I was doing it. So I'm actually crazy, right? So the next time we were shooting on Venice Beach, and I had my trailer, and
very easy place to not get high too.
I had my trailer sitting on Venice Beach right in front of the ocean, and they had one of those cannabis doctors there on the beach there, and you go in the Kush doctor.
Yeah, every store.
And got my license and got the vape pen, and then I was back, baby. But it was it definitely wasn't something that I regretted. There's times where I have to really be disciplined, because I could quite easily, I didn't get high before this interview, but I wanted to. But if I did, I probably would have been at some point in there. I probably would have gone. I regret that. So that's just something that's that addictive nature that I don't want to as a activist or advocate or politician around with the cannabis plant. I don't want to bullshit and say that it can't be a problem. It can be a problem. Yep. So it's all about
smoke responsibly.
Well, I think that's a good point. But do you also think, and at least I think, there's like this lost community value to it? So like, regardless if I see gummies, medicinal, whatever, but I do think they're actually, at least for me when I was younger and doing it, I miss the fact that there was a camaraderie around it. You're all sharing an experience. Like some of my happiest moments are just sitting in a circle getting high with my friends when I was at my lowest. And I can't pretend as somebody, even in recovery, like, oh, it was all bad. I'm like, none of that was bad for me. Like that was some of the stuff that helped me and helped guide me towards like Second City and comedy. And like we would make videos, like some of the more positive things I did would kind of stem from the camaraderie of it. And do you think that's kind of taken away from us because it's been either so villainized or medicinalized to the point that people feel they need to do it alone?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't have the exact answer, but I know that when it was still kind of a grey area in America, you'd have those High Times Cannabis Cup events, and they'd have bands, and they used to. I know that numbers have dropped right off from any of those kind of
April 20th at U of M.
Because people used to come together for that. I remember back in the 90s when I was in my rock band days, they'd have these big international acts would come over we'd have these big day outs, what I call the big day out. And it was before the masses caught wind of it, and it was just music fans, and everyone used to be smelling weed everywhere. There'd be a small bar over there, but a few people would be getting a couple of beers. It was hardly a thing at all. And everyone would just be connected. You'd never see fights breaking out. You'd just, you'd be up in a mosh pit and you'd see some cute girl, and before you know it, you'd be making out and be like, and then you'd lose her and be like, hey, but that's okay. I guess it was kind of close to what they say in the 60s, I guess, a bit, that hippie kind of thing. But it was really like, this is just such a magic experience. And then what happened was, the masses caught wind of this big day out, and they all started coming to it, and then the alcohol became a thing. And before you know it, there's fights breaking out all the time. And so you can really see the clear distinction between alcohol culture and cannabis culture. And the cannabis culture it is unifying. And there's an episode of Cannabis Code 2, which was really talking about that. How music brings people together, and how music and cannabis seem to
coincide,
connect together. Yeah, and that with music and people can sort of bring people together. Comedy as well, like you're saying, hanging around with your buddies, all being high and laughing your ass off. It's just, God wants us to be happy. God wants us to laugh. God wants us to dance, So, and it's in the Bible, actually. There's a line in there that escapes me. I've got to learn it. But it's where it actually talks about the fruits of the plants have been a gift from God. So that's where, just back to what you're saying about that older generation, I would welcome to have that conversation with religious leaders. And I remember years ago, religious people would come to my door and they would try and preach to me about certain things from the Bible. And I'd say, that's a great point, but I interpret those words this way. And I would interpret in a different way. And they'd often just go, we better get out of here. We're getting a bit confused. But, I think that, there's certain interpretations which comes back to religions, which comes back to people. Whenever people are in control of these things, they can tend to corrupt the message, and people can be brainwashed into demonizing something that, as you say, Garrett, could be really helpful for them.
No, I mean, that's spot on. And I think that it is something that can be helpful for a lot of people. And it's like, we don't tend to outlaw things either in America until they become a problem. Where like, prohibition, obviously, we outlawed booze. We invented organized crime, not in a way, but just in a bloody massacre sort of a way. And we're like, okay, well, we better give it back to them. But crystal meth wasn't illegal until like that long ago. There's been a lot of things that have come out that have been completely okay for people just to have. Bath salts are still legal. Like a woman was just eating a cat's face in Cincinnati and was high on bath salts. And it's like, you have these things available to the public, but I think we stigmatize marijuana and some, I mean, I go a little bit with mushrooms too, but in a way where we want people to be afraid of it and we want people to trust the wrong doctors instead of our own gut instinct. And I think is that kind of part of what you want to bring out with the self-medicating is just saying you have the right to feel how you feel.
Well, yeah, we can easily say, okay, I'm going to hire a dietitian to tell me what I'm going to eat every day of the week, and then I'm going to get my diet in order, or I can go and read the ingredients and do my own research and choose. I can have some McDonald's on one night, but I'm not going to have that every night, or a certain thing's going to happen to me. And the same way we can take ownership. My wife's a naturopath, and so she's really into everything that comes into our into our home, we know what's in it, and that's something that people can take control of with their medication as well. Question everything. Question your doctors, because those doctors, they're drug dealers. You know, they might care about you if you happen to have a good one, but at the end of the day, they get a kickback every single time they put on whatever those pharmaceutical drugs are. And let me just mention while you've still got me, because I've got to run in a minute, guys. I've got to go and work today at the shop. I've got a 420 shop in at Surface Paradise. But about 18 months ago, maybe 2 years ago, the pharmaceutical companies released an announcement. You may have heard of it, but it was only a tiny blip on the radar. And they basically said that the whole marketing campaign of the 70s and 80s of the pharmaceutical antidepressants, it being due to a chemical imbalance, was what they used.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they said there's a chemical imbalance to do with serotonin, and you have these pharmaceuticals, and we will balance the imbalance. Now, that to the common man, those kind of words make a bit of sense. And so, but they've now come out and they said this was nothing more than an advertising slogan. It was like Coke is it. You know, it was an advertising slogan. It wasn't based on any kind of fact at all, and they still don't know exactly what those pharmaceutical antidepressants are. We know that they have warnings on there saying that they have you can have suicidal thoughts or actions, homicidal thoughts or actions. We know that because they have it's part of what comes with them, but they don't really know what the good comes from them. But the pharmaceutical companies aren't re-educating society. They've come out and said, well, they've come clean and said this is what we did. But there's doctors still here. 85%, I think they said, of people still think that depression is due to a chemical imbalance in the brain, and by having pharmaceutical antidepressant drugs can balance that imbalance. So this is something that we may need to take that message out there ourselves as an industry, and as just people that I guess my point I'm making is, and I'm preaching to the converter, I think, with you guys, is just question everything, and definitely question what drugs you're being prescribed by your doctor, because they are getting a kickback from it, from the companies that's selling it.
They are. And I mean, I worked for a pharmacy in the late 90s, which was great for a drug addict. Boy, did I get some free supplies. But I remember the doctors that would come in, or doctors that worked in the area, and like the Oxycontin girls would come in, have pens, all that stuff before the whole boom took off. Yeah. Like they were all getting a kickback. Like they were getting taken out to steak dinners. They were doing, like, so much of that had leveled America, starting in, I think it's like Richmond, Virginia, where they first started the production of the pills. There's a family it goes back to. And now Philip Morris, I believe, or several cigarette companies are the ones that own our food and produce our food. So we have these two things going on, and we're supposed to just trust this blindly, while this thing that actually I know genuinely helps people is always so villainized. And I think it's important what you're doing. I really mean that. And I'm wondering, how do we get you? What can we do to help get you elected or to the place you want to be? I don't know how the system goes there.
Well, look, I'm hoping that because I've got a presence, an international presence, because of the destigmatizing of cannabis in the Wilfred series, and then on top of that, as I kind of earned my stripes as a cannabis entrepreneur, I'm hoping that what I say and do here echoes a little bit. For now, that's what I'm hoping, and that's kind of why I wanted to chat with you guys today, is because I do have a strong both my sons are American, have a very close affiliation with America, and I'll definitely be back there to live there again. I have been talking to a political party that was interested in me being involved from a cannabis perspective, so I would say that right now I'm going for a local seat, and it's kind of I'm probably unlikely to win it, really, because there's two big parties here, the same way as there are in America. But what I really want to do is make some noise and basically signal I'm going for, after that, failing that, I tend to go for a federal, election. And also I can't run for president, but I do have sort of some political possible ambitions in America as well at some point, because I do feel like that I've got, I've come from a good place. I'm actually broken person, you know. And I think that often broken people can heal people because, you know, I do understand. I do feel like, particularly in Australia, I speak on behalf of the common man, and I feel like too many politicians most of them forget that they are actually do have a boss. I want to say to them, if you want to be the boss, be an entrepreneur. I've done it. It's rewarding. It's hard, but it's rewarding. But if you want to be a politician, then you got a boss, and that boss is the public, is the Australian public, and that's who you're working for. And too many times, politicians lord over us, claiming to represent people when, you know, quite clearly they're representing, you know, big corporations.
Yeah. Their own wallet.
Yeah, so that's something that, you know, a mission of mine. You know, I know I'm probably not the first person, whether you're talking about Julian Assange or whoever, the first person that here's the thing, I may fizzle. If no one gets behind me and no one picks up what I'm putting down, then, you know, that's the way it is. And I feel like I'm on a godly mission, and that if people get behind me, then I'll take it as far as I can.
I think that's awesome, and we're rooting for you. I know you got to go in a second. Angela's what's that?
Just let me sorry to interrupt.
No,
but
dude, if you want to keep going, you can. I was reminding you. You can stay for 2 years.
It's kind of like the barricades from Les Miserables, where there's a situation ward and you've got me in the Wilfred suit, and I'm just like the flag, like cannabis flag or something. So I'm like, and I'm like, and then everyone's like, they killed Wilfred, let's go. But that's kind of like, that's how I want to go out. And, you know,
I think, starting the only bloody fight with cannabis.
Yeah. We need to get you and Afro Man together.
Yeah, we had Afro Man on the show announcing his run for, what was he running for? President.
He was running for president.
Yeah.
We were nearly stable mates. We were nearly label buddies because I almost went into business with his label for his. Anyway, almost. I have to.
Is that with the music?
Yeah.
On the music end? Okay.
Yeah, no, it would be with cannabis. But that would be like remember the cannabis war that day?
Basically
it was just the guy from Wilfred. Just the guy from Wilfred ran up in Parliament and he got shot at the Capitol because he was like acting in a threatening manner.
Just him.
Yeah. Well, guys, I do have to run. I've got to jump in the car and get these kids to school as well. It's pretty early over here.
Dude, I'm a huge fan, and I really can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to be talking about some serious stuff today, but
it's important.
You know, it's important. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you, Angela. It's great to meet you.
Thanks, Jason. Love you.
I'm going to follow you, Garrett, and what you're doing.
Yes.
I hope you'll come back on, dude. I really enjoyed talking to you and talking to you online.
Yeah.
And we can do our little sex roulette later.
Garrett, we'll talk more. I'd be interested, you know, interested in the cannabis code, so I'd be interested to talk to you what kind of what you're into.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I do a show called Forbidden Frontier. We talk about aliens and ancient civilizations and all kinds of stuff. I'd love to have you on that show because sounds like it's on your alley.
About that event that happened to me in 97.
I got to hear about that.
I do want to hear about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'll talk to you. We got to get you on the show.
All right. Cool. All right, guys. Have a great night. Thank you.
You have a good one.
Thank you very much, Jason.
One more question.
Oh, wait. Did it cut up?
Oh. Dang it.
One more. No? Okay.
He's gone.
Let's get a thumbnail. What a good conversation.
That was great, yeah.
Honestly, I'm such a huge fan of the guy.
Yeah.
I know Angela is. I know.
I watched the premiere of the show when it came out with my brother, and we laughed our ass
He started
off.
hitting me up about being a fan of my stand-up, and I was like, "Is this really Wilfred? Really? A guy dressed as a dog?
Really? It's really him."
But he's.
Cool.
Then he watches the show, and I really think it's important to get away from big pharmaceuticals, and the more we look into this and destigmatize this for the people that need it, I think it was
a big con to make it out to be the reefer madness thing.
Of course it was.
It's all bull crap.
It was to sell alcohol.
Absolutely. And alcohol does way more damage than anything else. I mean, I'll have a drink every once in a while, but like it absolutely does destroy people's lives.
Dude, people will disagree with me, but the number of problems that would be alleviated if alcohol wasn't in our society is staggering.
So I love it. He came from it at like a medicinal value and like a very taking it seriously and smoking responsibly, like I said earlier, is just doing things responsibly and not just letting whatever it is control your life. So,
yeah, what was your take, Angela?
No, I thought he was very relatable. As somebody, especially with anxiety, who also struggles with addictions, but also loves weed. Like I felt like I could relate to him.
Yeah.
He's, I really appreciate what he's doing. And I think he brings a really unique perspective to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you all for listening. These guys are going to leave me alone tomorrow, and I'm hoping that
I gotta go to Peru.
14 and Don Jameson are still booked. You have to go to Peru.
I'm going to Peru.
I go
on a plane
nowhere.
in like
I'm
a
going to
few
Oregon.
hours.
Nowhere.
Oh, you should come with me.
Give me money.
Come with me, Dave. To Peru.
Yeah,
I'll play a little song while we eat the little.
dude, I'll go with you to Peru. Don't tempt me with a good time. I'll do stuff your wife won't even dream of to you in a hotel room
my-
for a
No, he
free
knows how.
Peru
Good.
vacation.
In his marriage.
In my marriage.
I'm just saying.
It doesn't count if you're in another country.
No,
Right here.
no, it's not gay if you're overseas.
Yeah, please.
So we've learned a lot today,
Yes.
and we had
Leave
to
your comments below what you thought. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of different opinions. And I'd love to hear all of them.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people don't like pot. Some do, but I think if you're honest, I'd like to hear if you. I even asked that too. Do you have a lot of good memories of just smoking pot with your friends and it being a level of freedom? Like there's a freedom in this universe that I remember I used to feel, and that was a really big part of it where I felt like everything was going to be okay because I'd go into comedy, and then I did.
Yeah.
So a lot of people that were working hard and paranoid for other reasons, I was just like, I hope the cops don't catch us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we want to thank him very much for joining us, and thank you all for tuning in.
Yeah. See you later.
Night.